When I was 23 years old, in my first summer assignment as a seminarian, I was assigned to St. Peter and Paul Parish up the hill with Father John Horgan as the pastor. God rest his soul, he passed away recently. So I was living with Father John, but 3 days a week I would be at the chancery with Monsignor Greg Smith and I'd help him. And something very interesting happened that summer. Everything I did for Monsignor Smith was awesome. Everything I did for Father John Horgan was terrible. So when I was with Father Monsignor Smith, I was on fire. I couldn't do anything wrong. So one time he says to me and my 4 classmates, we all became priests, he says, $20 for anyone who can tell me how many canons there are in the Code of Canon Law. I don't know how I knew this. I just said 1752. I was right. I must have heard it. So he gives me the $20. I look awesome, right? And then when I'm with Father John Horgan, everything I did was wrong. So one time he says, don't forget to leave the lights in the church on after the first Mass, because if you turn them off, it takes them a long time to start up again. What do? Turn them off. Yeah. So one day I was with the ladies who worked with Father John. We're having lunch, and they said one of 2 things to me. I don't remember which, but both were true. They said either, you're letting him intimidate you, true, and stop trying to impress him. That's also very true. So right now we start reflecting, are there any people in our lives that we allow to intimidate us? Are there any people we try to impress? In 2 weeks, we have our Christ the King challenge, and the question I'm going to put forth, just like we did last year, is you'd raise your hand if you've made Jesus the center of your life. And it's very likely that we are aware, maybe influenced by what other people around us will think, whether we put up our hand or not. I'm going to be away next Sunday for vacation. And so I just want to prepare us for that Christ the King challenge using today's readings. In the second reading, St. Paul writes, "May our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us through grace and gave us eternal comfort and good hope, comfort your hearts and strengthen them." Everything starts with God's love. So if you have made Jesus the center of your life, that's a gift of God's love. If you're close to doing that, because that's a question I'm going to ask you too. If you haven't made that choice, are you close to? Do you want to? If you are, that's also a gift of God's grace. And if you're not yet ready to put up your hand, you know what? God still loves you. And that's really important because I don't want you to feel any pressure to love him. We're going to come back to that in a minute. St. Paul then prays that the Philippians would be rescued from wicked people. Now, in our case, we want to pray that we're rescued from the people who intimidate us and the people we're trying to impress. I remember one guy, he said that his spiritual director told him, he said, "Sal, you have to be your own man." Because Sal was always worried about pleasing people. He really couldn't make lifelong decisions. He couldn't make commitments. And so St. Paul writes, "May the Lord direct your hearts to the love of God and to the steadfastness of Christ." When I say to you, you have to be your own man, you have to be your own woman, I'm not just saying do whatever you like. I'm saying you're here to please God alone. So whatever decision we make, if Jesus is the center of our life or not, and if people don't like whatever we've chosen, they've got to grow. They have something to work on. Our decision to love Jesus is like a marriage. Jesus says in the gospel, "The children of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage." This is where we get that teaching, "Until death do us part." Human marriage ends with death, right? Because Jesus says, "Those who are considered worthy of a place in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage." Why? Because in heaven, everyone's married to God. Now, just so you know, in case you get worried, the love between husband and wife here on earth, if it's rooted in God, it will continue in heaven, but there's no more marriage. In heaven, everyone is married to God. And so, just like a marriage, if you're going to love Jesus, it has to be free. You can't be pressured to marry. You also can't be pressured to love Jesus and make him the center of your heart. So I will be honest with you, because we always have to be honest with each other. If we don't love Jesus, you're going to miss out on a lot of blessings. If you hide from the sun, don't complain that you get cold. You're going to miss out. But at the same time, if we don't love him, he still loves us. And you have to be free. So when those ladies at St. Peter and Paul, when they said to me, "You're letting him intimidate you, and stop trying to impress him," I felt free because they exposed my secret. I finally felt, yeah, why am I so worried about impressing Father John? He loves me. He's my summer pastor. What's the deal? There's something in me that I've got to fix. I've got to be free of trying to impress him. And we all have to be free of worrying about other people's opinions. Jesus is the perfect lover. And he wants us to love him not only because he saves us from sin, from death, and from hell. He also wants us to love him, most importantly, just because he's so good, because he's won our hearts. Let's look at this relationship diagram that we've shown before from the Faith Studies program. On the top 3 diagrams show levels of commitment. The one on the left shows when we are single, in the middle, when we're dating, and then when we are married on the right. So when we're single, we might know a person, but they don't impact our life. When we're dating, that person is a part of our life, but there's still more important things in our life, our family, ourselves, etc. But finally, when we're married, when that person's the center, we make all of our decisions with him or her in mind, just like they make all of their decisions with us in mind. And so that these levels of relationship commitment is analogous to our relationship with Jesus. So let's look at the bottom 3 diagrams. The one on the left shows when Jesus is outside of our life. We know him, but he doesn't impact our decisions. The one in the middle means he's a part of our life. We do love him. But there are more important things in our life that influence our decisions, ourselves, career, family, etc. But finally, when he's the center of our lives, all those things are still important, but he's the most important, and we make all of our decisions, all of our goals in life, they rotate around him. You don't have to be perfect to make Jesus the center of your life. There was a girl who, when she was in confirmation class, not here, she had an experience, she had like an epiphany. What did Jesus do for her on the cross? And she said silently in her heart that she believed in him and that she wanted to live according to his will. Fast forward some years, she goes to college, she takes the faith study program, and she arrives at this. And the missionary asks her, "Would you want to put Jesus at the center of your life?" And she says, "I can't." Why? Well, because I'm not living the way Jesus wants me to live. And the missionary explained, when 2 married people don't love each other perfectly, they're not unmarried. They're still married, they just have to love each other better. And that's the way it is with all of us. You don't have to be perfect to make Jesus the center. You just have to want him to be at the center. And a question a lot of you have asked is, well, Father Justin, how do I know when he's the center? And the question I ask back to you is, how do you know when you're married? How do you know when you're married? You made a lifelong choice. It's the choice. That's the key part. So I know some people, they made this choice silently. We made it in our hearts. Some of us made it with the help of a friend. I heard about a guy who made it on the bus. So where is Jesus in our life right now? Is he outside? Is he apart? Or is he the center? And then the more important question is, if I had asked you, could you point? Don't point. If you had to point, if you want to point, which of these 3 bottom diagrams you would want to represent your relationship with Jesus, which would you choose? Hey, just realize someone is the center of our life right now. Something's got to be there right now. So it could be us, it could be our family, it could be our career. And the question is, are you happy with that? Do you want more? Because Jesus wants to offer us so much more.